Daniel's here. Correctivity for homeostasis and thereby autonomy and sovereignty for European peoples, genus and species. A concept of genetic unionization, structuring, social accountability, and correctivity for human and pervasive ecology, coordination thereof. Okay. I have a somewhat shorter stream tonight to correct some odds and ends from our recent podcasts here and some of the other podcasts and articles have been floating around the WN sphere, adjacent sphere. I don't want to go too long again because I have to save some time on my StreamYard for this weekend, where perhaps I'll be joined by some interlocutors. All right then. Good news as far as I'm concerned. When my internet went down for about a day and a half because some storm knocked out my modem, I had to replace it, something like that. It forced occasion for me to listen to some of the older podcasts that I'd taken down from YouTube and saved on my hard disk. And it confirmed to me a feeling that I'm having more and more as I listen around and, well, over the past years, you become more and more selective in what you listen to. In the beginning, I was, and probably a lot of people were, satisfied to hear anybody in the ballpark remotely advocating for our people. And then more and more you become dissatisfied with aspects of their program, and more I've come to the position to finally I've come to the position that I'd rather hear what's coming from this platform than other places by far. And so the good news is that I've in that regard, that was confirmed to me when I started listening back to some of my old podcasts. It's like, hey, this is pretty good. I'm naturally a bit nervous listening back to things that you think it's going to be provide many occasions for face palms. Oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Actually, no, they hold up very well, and so. I began by loading one to BitChute. It was a podcast that I did corresponding with Millennial Yule's thing, and I sort of did a parody on him and do a year-long, or do basically a review of the year, something like that. And I loaded it, or BitChute said that it successfully loaded, but I don't see it there yet. And it's a mystery that I have to attend to after this podcast. But I did successfully upload it to Odyssey, so I've started loading to Odyssey. That was the first one, and I'll upload all the videos that I have. I did save the interview with the English lady Carol. I have several several good podcasts that I'll put up on Odyssey and BitChute, and we'll get that alternative platform going. All right then. Some of the things that I wanted to note in this podcast are notes. Well, first of all, because it's not in my notes, but fresh in my memory, having just listened to it, a podcast between Thamster, Tyler Hamilton, and Josh Neal, and they're discussing Merleau-Ponty, and by arduous means of it, and arduous means of Tyler Hamilton's significant erudition and you can say intelligence, which is unfortunately very garbled by his commitment to Christianity, and that tangle. They are, I don't know if they're hearing my criticisms or not of Josh Neal's psychological perspective, but Josh Neal seems to be taking it into account and listening to what a person abreast of some of the more recent philosophy has to say, namely Tyler Hamilton and his reading of Merleau-Ponty. Now, Merleau-Ponty, I don't know if he was much ahead of his time on very much. I didn't get a whole lot out of him that wasn't already being said around in the academic circles that I was mixing with. Embodiment seems to be kind of the articulation that he might most be credited for putting forth. And this would just be, an anti-Cartesian perspective of, looking at the entering point of the relation of knower to known, which is what a postmodern perspective would do. Now, these guys are trying to say that they're something like some kind of meta-modern and not postmodern. They want to still ascribe post-modernity to the red capers like Derrida. They literally name that. And I reject that. I think it's useful to note how the red capers are, the kosher folks are misrepresenting post-modernity. That of itself an importantly instructive. And so I'm not, and plus you see him and Keith Woods, people are using the meta modern term. They're third positionists, which means that they're trying to introduce Jesus and Hitler usually somehow, or something like that, scientism, right-wing elements in a word. They do still identify as right or third position to introduce right-wing elements. Now, so there's a lot of talk, and they're playing catch up with social constructionism. And so people can know that this platform is way ahead of these guys, and we're not trying to articulate for you things that should be left unarticulated, and for your sake to articulate, we are setting forth the parameters and the structures. Because ours is the superior philosophical platform, and it will be. It has to be. Now, so that's what it said, and then you hear Josh Neal in his talk with Nicholas Jovey over at Countercurrents Radio, and talking about, and they're talking psychology, and I hate to say it, but it was so boring. It was this granular nonsense. It's just not psychology. It's just not the best perspective for analyzing our problems. And well, and then Gilvey, coming from where he is coming from, he said something very stupid. What was it? Oh yeah, if you'll notice, the hippies are all in power now, and they're the ones. No, and again, it's important not to let people make the hippies and what they were about in essence seem as if they're powerful and seem as if they've succeeded in putting their motive across, which they have not done at all. Which it was about being amidst our people for our men, for European men. And that was profound. They were not articulate about it. That is pretty much, it's sort of their fault, yes. But they're not like in charge of society now with, and this stuff of blaming hippies is very, very much a kosher thing to do. In fact, so kosher. Just to show you what a jerk or what jerkish advice that Claire Collin is capable of. Not only did she, the last time I spoke of it, said, how is the Vietnam War at all relevant? The draft relevant? It's like, stupidity beyond belief. But she sent me a link to a Cato stream where he would be discussing nationalism, and I've displaced the guy. It was a couple of days ago. Cato was talking, quote, nationalism to some fool who said that, and I mean, if you can believe this, he said those dirty hippies were responsible for turning America into a civic nationalist nation. Can you imagine the stupidity of it, the dishonesty of it, the misdirection of it? The hippies did that? What were they, like 17, 20 years old? Or young teenagers in 1964? Absurd. And of course, Cato, Paul Gottfried's current sidekick, would be talking to someone like this who's trying to pull that trick of, oh no, it wasn't the who have done all they can to turn America into a civic nationalist nation. It was those dirty hippies. And try to blame them, let alone, while of course ignoring the profundity of the underlying issue for European men in being toward death with the Vietnam War. Okay, so let me put that aside. But what do you expect of Cato stuff coming out of the Cato Gottfried camp? But dishonesty and misdirection against our interests, of course. Now, okay, the next note that I wanted to make, in the last talk with, I might as well mention how in the last, some additional corrections to the last talk that I had with Snorkel Blog. Now, and he was saying that, do I really, or he was asking me, do I really see fit to maintain the left and right dichotomy? And I say yes, of course. And I've explained this at length as to why. And he used the example of the guy Sewell from Australia, this quote national socialist. I hate that term, Nazi advocate. And I've heard him. He is quite intelligent, but in adhering to that's a disaster, of course, and trying to maintain that and to say, oh, they're going to call you a Nazi, so you may as well be one anyway, which is totally ridiculous. But anyway, nevertheless, like all persons pursuing right-wing quests of truth, factivity, principles, nature, descriptions of how natural entities work, it can provide feedback. Basically, that's what the right does at its best, is it provides feedback to be gauged against the calibration of our group interests. So you can take ideas from someone like him and take what's good and leave the rest, as they say. But on the other hand, it's mind-boggling when people expect me or anybody to accept Nazis or neo-Nazis, quote, National Socialists, as just another platform that I should somehow get along with and be okay with, let alone what stupid OV tried to suggest that I should tell Polish people that Hitler wasn't that bad. I mean, can you imagine he said that to me? I mean, what I'd say is, like, what I would say to these people who are trying to redeem and promote Hitler and expect others like me, think about it for 3 seconds. How could I do this? If just look at look at the facts of the history, the war crimes, the supremacist imperialist agenda, the brutality, the extravagant lengths and denial that they have to go to in order to try to justify it, and the vilification of other Europeans in order to try. How could I? It'd be suicide, insane, totally immoral. It's ridiculous. Okay. Other thing that I forgot to say in this is that I can totally understand how people could be repulsed by the word, by even the word left. I was, and by the way that it's been co-opted in the red capers of advocacy, of social advocacy against European interests. And I could see how people would think that it merely corresponds with our enemies. But to do that, they put us on the side of a lack of social organization, compassion, and accountability. And it's always assumed with this characterology of the left that, that our marshaling of social unionization and advocacy and compassion won't correspond, unlike the characterology, with objective verification, with truth quests, with making sure that we have feedback so that our view is consonant with nature, that it's principled, that it upholds sufficient moral principles, that it's sufficiently rigorous, that it deals with facts that must be dealt with. It's none of these stereotypes of the quote left that this marketing campaign is trying to put across with its red capes in order to turn European people off from the underlying necessary concepts to our organization, to our defense, to our unionization and coalition building and advocacy, to social justice for us. This just the facts, man, position that they've backed European identity into. Think of it. None of this social compassion stuff, just none of this social justice stuff, just the facts. They know what turns people off, and why wouldn't it? Dirty hippies are responsible for civic nationalism. My God. Now, on the other hand, there was a place where I got a bit testy with Snorkel Blog when I realized now I should not have. And that was when I was noting a very interesting observation that I gleaned through James Bowery, that the Bible was the media, and with it media control of times gone by, of the times before electronic media. And Snorkel Blog made the observation, which in the moment was tedious to me, and I was wrong. He said that the clergy was controlling that media, and what I should have noted that he was correct, and even Bowery would go on to say with this analogy that in fact the Gutenberg press was the first sort of media revolution, because that enabled people to look at the texts for themselves. Now, I would add that should only allow people to see for themselves what chimera was being put across in this red caping and this false opposition of our moral order. But people were still slow to come to that consensus, I guess, for just the bullying and of the people and the intimidation of the texts themselves. but that the Gutenberg press was the media revolution until the internet allowed people to interact even more and engage in what I'm calling what is correctivity over these. Now, Adam Green's doing an okay enough job in taking on what I call this red caping of our moral order. What I called, well, back in 2013, before I or anybody else had heard of Adam Green, was calling, well, I don't know, I didn't hear him, a false opposition. And as far as I'm concerned, he kicked Tyler Hamilton's ass. So that whole platform, Tyler Hamilton, Joel Davis, Josh Neal, Matt Parrott, these guys might have some IQ. They may have read some books, but they're I sure am glad that there's this platform here, which isn't going to be bogged down in their nonsense. And I heard Greg Johnson say recently that he's a Platonic realist, that there are these categories that these discrete essences, well, I guess such as species he would probably point to as an example, that fall into these discrete categories and that they're not socially constructed. Well, what Greg Johnson is doing there is showing that he is also well behind the curve philosophically. The social constructionism is realist. And just because he notes that there is discreteness between the species, in other words, if there's homeostasis some homeostasis in those, and stasis in those discretenesses, this doesn't undo social constructionism, doesn't undo the utility nor the reality of social constructionism. Just because you are acknowledging that you acknowledge along with others a designation that there are distinct peoples, for example, different kinds of peoples, doesn't mean that that's not a social construct. And the point is to acknowledge our agency. And nor does it mean that the differences aren't real as can be. They are. But it not only connects to the naming, but also to it joins in the fact that indeed there was interactivity, engaged, embodied interactivity, if you want to use the Merleau-Ponty take there, in the development and social construction of these different peoples that we are. And it's important because it bears upon our agency, and that's profound. And it's important because it's been misrepresented to the point where, look, I mean, Greg Johnson still doesn't understand it, and Thamster and Josh Neal just begun to try to grapple with it. Otherwise, they're all well behind this platform. They'll get to where we are someday, and probably not as well. If they're good for some feedback. I've been reminded of a few things about Aristotle by Thamster and Greg Johnson. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I need to be reminded of this or that thing, but and uh, Joel Davis helped me to spread out cultivate a little more idea of emergentism, taking it, you know, recognizing the obvious that this is a concept that extends to groups, not just to species, not just to individuals. Fine, I appreciate the feedback, and I always acknowledge where people have some things right, but that provides the way, paves the way for me to say that I'm not getting much from them. And, I'm really satisfied that this platform is the most sufficient. Okay, so, like I said, some older streams that have been down for a while, like are going to start going up on BitChute and Odyssey, and they're really pretty good. Like I said, I listen to other stuff and it's just like, ugh, where they're going, and it's tiresome. Some of their positions are completely unacceptable. The people who are like defending Putin, okay, we see what the neocons and Operation Clean Break are doing on the pseudo-Ukrainian side as well. But that doesn't mean that Putin is for us. Anyway, that's just one example. It's it's a relief to me, and I'm sure to others, that this platform is here. And look at majority rights. It's the same old stuff. I mean, GW doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He put up this big long article recently. I tried to skim some of it. I'm not going to waste my time. I see where he's going. In the end, in the final paragraph, he's got he names Derrida as representing post modernity. Oh, post modernity can't work. Well, you know what I would say, and will say that Derrida is one of them. He's red caping. His erasure and deconstructionism doesn't represent what postmodernity is supposed to do for European interests. It's not what postmodernity was supposed to be about. This is, a form of late modernity. What Derrida is doing, because if you're just deconstructing things and expecting good things to happen, that's a modernist take. It's a late modernist take. You're presuming that you're going to get to foundations by destroying everything that is and erasing it. That's not postmodernity. That's late modernity. Okay. So what do we got here? We got 3 listeners. Hey Daniel, what's your Odyssey link? Let's see. I don't know if this. I'm very very new at Odyssey, so if I give you the link where the one upload that I have there now is, I'm not sure if it's going to be satisfactory to you. But that's about it. I want to save time on StreamYard. Let me just pause to reflect for a second in case there's anything else that I wanted to say today. There usually is something that I forget, but I'll remember it for next time. It's good if we only go 45 minutes so that we can have some time for this weekend for the stream. I'll do a short stream and then try to have some time for another stream the following weekend. Before on the 22nd, our time will renew. So anybody want to join me? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I'll put the link there for a minute. I sent them out to some people, but they didn't. There's the link. You people have 3 minutes to join if you want to try to talk to me tonight, as in not Claire. The stream that I put up, in fact, on Odyssey, Claire Quall comes on at the end, and even she doesn't ruin it. She almost does. I mean, you can tell that she's not knowledgeable enough to register something significant being said, and that her little input there is trivia by comparison. But it doesn't matter. She doesn't, like I said, she doesn't ruin it. Okay, well, you have a minute and a half. Try this weekend, see if we can gather all three, Per, Snorkel Blog, and Claire isn't knowledgeable and she has no social intelligence. True enough. True enough. I can agree. Yeah, I'll try to have. I'll see if I can get Per, Mirth Baron, and Snorkel Blog on at the same time this weekend. That'd be fun. Although, who knows? It might be a chemistry cocktail that explodes. I don't know. I think it'll be all right. I gave the wrong Odyssey link. Oh. Well, just look for Daniel Sienkiewicz on Odyssey. If you can't find it, I'll try to provide a more solid link next time I come on this weekend. It's the name of it has a title. It's called Correctivity, Correcting Odds and Ends, Whatever Pops Up, Warts and All. That's a joke on millennial woes. And his alleged flashing of sending weenie pictures to some woman. And then he has this bathrobe that he wears for his millennial eagle thing. Presents himself in a bathrobe, which is classic flasher attire. So I just thought it was funny. Here's this guy's been accused of flashing his weenie, whose avatar is a bathrobe, exactly what a flasher would wear. So I'm talking about whatever pops up, warts and all, and he's been accused of passing genital warts to a woman. Now if that's true, that's really bad. Genital warts are even worse for a woman than for a man. Anyway, and that's the kind of thing, I suppose, that you can do when you go through a, quote, gay phase where you even know the names of the men that, I can't believe anybody would do that, let alone fess to it. Youth. Millennial wolves. Poor guy. Anyway, so that's it. I want to thank everybody and see you this weekend. Probably, if not Saturday, then Sunday. And probably the morning, see you at Central European time. Okay, then. Bye for now.